An arrow 75 centimeters long, a shaft of willow, a tip of walrus bone, fletching of snowy owl feathers. It weighs only 60 grams, but it can pierce a caribou hide a finger's width thick and reach the heart. This is not a museum exhibit, not a historical reconstruction. This is a working tool with which Ivik, an Inuit hunter of 62 years, has been taking caribou every autumn for the last 50 years of his life. In a world of rifles, snowmobiles, and GPS navigators, he has chosen the path of his ancestors. Bow, arrows, patience, and knowledge of animal behavior accumulated over millennia. Today, he is taking me on a hunt to show how the Inuit survived in the Arctic for thousands of years before the appearance of firearms. And I understand that I will see not simply a hunt, but an ancient art, dying together with its last masters. 4 o'clock in the morning. The settlement of Baker Lake in the Canadian Arctic sleeps beneath a starry sky. The temperature is -34. But this is September, a relatively warm time before the onset of the real cold. In Ivik's small wooden house, a light is burning. He has been awake for an hour already, preparing his gear, checking every arrow, every detail of the bow. The bow lies on the table, and I see it up close for the first time. This is not a sporting bow from a shop. This is an instrument made by hand from Arctic materials. The core is from muskox horns joined at the center with a walrus bone overlay, bound together with caribou sinew. The bow is 120 centimeters long, its curve smooth, elegant. The bowstring is of twisted caribou sinew, strong as a steel cable. My father made this bow 40 years ago, says Ivik, running his hand along the smooth surface. He taught me how to make it, how to string it, how to shoot. Then I made my own bows, taught my son. Now my son teaches my grandson. 4 generations in one family shoot the bow, while the whole world has switched to rifles. He explains why he chose the bow over modern weapons. A rifle costs $800, cartridges $3 apiece. For a poor family in the Arctic, that is an enormous amount of money. A bow is made from materials that nature provides, free of charge. The only cost is time and skill. Also, a rifle is loud, he continues. One shot, and every caribou within a kilometer scatters. With a bow, you can shoot again and again, quietly. If you miss, the herd does not know where the danger is coming from, does not run far. You can try again. But the main thing, he says, and his voice becomes serious, is that the bow is a connection to the ancestors. When I draw the string, I feel my grandfather's hands on my hands, his knowledge flowing through me. When the arrow flies, it is not just me shooting. It is thousands of hunters before me shooting through me. This is our culture, our identity. If we forget the bow, we forget who we are. The arrows lie in a leather quiver, 20 of them. Ivik checks each one. The shaft straight, not cracked. The tip sharp. The fletching intact. One arrow has a small crack at the base. He sets it aside. This one could break on release. Cannot take the risk. 19 arrows. That will be enough. The arrows differ by their tips. Some have bone points, others stone, and several more have metal ones made from old files. Different tips for different situations, Ivik explains. Bone ones are light, fly far, good for long shots. Stone ones are heavy, pierce the hide better for close shots. Metal ones are the sharpest, but dull quickly from hitting bones. Ivik's clothing is a blend of traditional and modern. The base is a traditional caribou skin parka sewn by his wife from hides taken last autumn. Caribou fur is ideal for silent movement, he explains. It does not rustle, does not creak like synthetics. The animals do not hear you until you get very close. Over the parka is a modern camouflage jacket, white with gray patches, matching the autumn tundra with its first snow. On his feet are comics of reindeer hide with soles of sealskin, soft, allowing him to feel the ground beneath his feet, to move soundlessly. On his hands are thin chamois gloves that let him feel the bowstring. By 5 o'clock in the morning, we are ready. 2 others come with us. Ivik's son Chukchi, 38 years old, who also shoots a bow, and his grandson Inuit, 16, who is learning. Chukchi has his own bow, smaller than his father's, made by himself 5 years ago. Inuit has a training bow, light, for practice. We step out of the house into darkness and cold. The stars are bright in the black sky. The Milky Way stretches like a ribbon from horizon to horizon. The northern lights dance to the north, green ribbons swaying in the heights. We walk on foot, without a snowmobile, because the noise of an engine would scare off every animal within a 5-kilometer radius. We head west, into the tundra, where, according to reports from other hunters, a herd of caribou migrating south was seen 3 days ago. Caribou, the northern reindeer, migrate twice a year, Ivik explains as we walk. In spring northward, into the tundra, where they bear calves, where there is plenty of forage in summer. In autumn southward, into the forest tundra, where it is easier to survive winter, where there is less snow and they can dig for moss. We hunt in autumn, in September and October, when the caribou head south, he continues. At that time they are fat, having put on weight over the summer, and the meat is at its best. The autumn hide is ideal for clothing. The fur is thick, warm. One animal gives everything a family needs: meat for a month, a hide for a parka, bones for tools, sinew for thread. We walk for 2 hours. Slowly, stopping every 500 meters, looking around, listening. The tundra awakens. The sky to the east begins to lighten. The stars go out one by one. The temperature drops a few more degrees before dawn, the coldest time of day. Suddenly Ivik stops, raises his hand. We freeze. He points ahead and slightly to the right. I peer forward. At first, I see nothing. Then I notice, on the crest of a small hill, about 500 meters away, dark silhouettes against the brightening sky. Caribou. We take out binoculars and study them. The herd is about 20 animals, females, young ones, several males. They graze calmly, pawing the snow with their hooves, searching for moss and berries. The wind blows from them toward us. Good. They will not catch our scent, Ivik whispers. He studies the terrain, planning the approach. See that gully? He points. It runs from us toward them, shielding us from view. We will go down into it, approach along the bottom, and come out behind that rock over there. From the rock, it is about 150 meters to the herd, a normal distance for a shot. The stalking begins, the most difficult and important part of hunting with a bow. Unlike a rifle, which shoots at 300 to 400 meters, a bow is effective at a range of no more than 50 to 80 meters. You must get very close, and caribou have excellent hearing and sense of smell. We descend into the gully, moving along the bottom, bent over, almost crawling in some places. We move slowly, every step deliberate, cautious. We place our feet on the ground smoothly, rolling the foot from heel to toe, creating no sharp sounds. Breathing is quiet, shallow. Every 50 meters we stop, freeze, listen. The sounds of the herd are audible: snorting, the clicking of hooves, the low growling of males settling disputes. They do not know of our presence. They continue to feed calmly. After 40 minutes of stalking, we are behind the rock, a large boulder the size of a car. We peer out carefully. The herd is 120 meters away, a little farther than planned, but within range. Ivik assesses the situation. distance, wind, the positions of the animals. "That male there," he whispers, pointing to a medium-sized caribou slightly apart from the main group. Young, about 3 years old, weighing around 120 kilograms. The meat will be tender, not tough like that of old males. The antlers are medium, good for tools. We will take him. He draws the bow from its case, strings it, checking the tension. The bow creaks softly, wood and bone working together. He takes out an arrow with a bone tip, a long one for a distant shot. He knocks it on the string, checks the fletching. Chukchi draws his own bow, preparing to shoot second if his father misses or the caribou is only wounded. Inuit watches, learning. His bow is not yet strung. He is too young for a real hunt. Ivic slowly rises from behind the rock, steps into the open. His movements are smooth, cautious. The caribou 120 meters away continues to paw the snow, not noticing the hunter. Ivic takes his stance, left foot forward, right foot back, body sideways to the target, bow in his left hand, arrow on the string in his right. He draws the string slowly, smoothly. He pulls to full draw until his right hand touches the corner of his mouth, the traditional Inuit technique. The elbow of his right arm is high, creating maximum tension. The muscles of his back and shoulders are taut, holding 30 kilograms of draw weight. He aims, compensating for distance and wind. The arrow flies in an arc. At 120 meters, one must aim about 2 meters above the target so the arrow drops precisely into the heart. Also, the wind is from the left, about 5 meters per second, pushing the arrow half a meter to the right. He must aim to the left. He holds his breath. A second of complete stillness. The fingers of his right hand open, releasing the string. The string snaps from his fingers, strikes the guard on his wrist with a muffled click. The arrow leaps from the bow, flies forward with a whistle. The flight lasts 2 seconds. The arrow describes an arc through the air, gains height, then falls, accelerating. The bone tip leads. The fletching behind stabilizes the flight. The caribou raises its head, hearing the whistle, but too late. The arrow enters the animal's body just behind the front shoulder blade, piercing hide, muscle, a rib, reaching the heart. The hit is precise, lethal. The caribou flinches, takes several steps to the side, drops to its knees, then onto its side. It dies within 30 seconds. Quickly, almost without suffering. The rest of the herd erupts in panic, but a quiet panic, not understanding where the danger comes from. They scatter in different directions, but not far, about 200 meters, then stop and look around. The silence of the bow has not spooked them completely, unlike a rifle shot. "Good shot," says Chukchi quietly, with pride in his voice. "Straight to the heart. A quick death. That is how it should be." Ivic nods but does not smile. For him, this is not cause for celebration, but a job done, necessary for his family's survival. We approach the fallen caribou slowly, carefully. "You must always check whether it is truly dead," Ivic warns. "A wounded caribou can rise, strike with a hoof, gore with an antler. I have seen a wounded caribou break a hunter's leg with a single kick. But this caribou is dead, that is obvious. The eyes are glazed, there is no breathing, the blood has stopped flowing. The arrow protrudes from the body, having entered 30 centimeters and stopped in a rib on the other side. Ivic carefully pulls the arrow out, examines it. The tip is intact, the shaft is not cracked, the fletching is in place. It can be used again. "Now, gratitude," he says. He takes a pinch of tobacco from his pocket and places it on the ground beside the caribou's head. He speaks words in Inuktitut, thanking the spirit of the animal for allowing itself to be taken, for giving its life so that people might eat. He asks forgiveness for having had to kill. He promises to use every part of the body with respect. This is not merely a ritual, he explains afterward. It is the foundation of our hunting. We take a life, but not carelessly, with gratitude, with respect, with the understanding that it is a gift. Without that respect, hunting becomes mere killing, and the spirits of the animals will leave, will no longer allow themselves to be taken. The butchering begins right on the spot, because 120 kilograms of caribou cannot be carried whole 5 kilometers back to the house. Ivik takes out a large knife and makes a cut along the belly from the sternum to the pelvis. He opens the abdominal cavity and carefully removes the internal organs. The liver is taken out first. Large, dark red, weighing about 3 kilograms. Ivik cuts it in half and hands me 1/2. "Eat," he says. "Fresh liver, still warm, the most nutritious part." It is a hunter's tradition to eat the liver immediately after the kill, to receive the animal's strength. I take the piece of warm liver and bite into it. The taste is rich, metallic, bloody. The texture is soft, tender, melting in the mouth. I wash it down with cold water from a flask. I feel warmth spreading through my body, energy arriving. It truly works. The liver gives strength instantly. The remaining organs are placed in a bag. Heart, kidneys, lungs, stomach. Everything will be eaten. Nothing is discarded. The heart is considered a delicacy, Chukchi explains. We fry it quickly over high heat, a crust on the outside, pink on the inside. The most delicious meat. The hide is removed whole in one piece. Ivik works carefully, cutting the connective tissue between hide and meat without piercing the skin. This hide will go toward a parka for my grandson, he says. An autumn hide with thick fur, ideal for winter clothing. My wife will tan it, sew it. Anouk will wear it and remember this caribou for the rest of his life. The meat is separated from the bones methodically. The front legs at the shoulder joint, the hind legs at the hip joint, the back muscles along the spine, the neck meat, the rib meat. Each part is placed in a separate bag according to its purpose. Tender meat for roasting, tough meat for soups, very tough meat for drying. The head is cut off, the tongue removed. The tongue is a delicacy, says Ivik. We boil it with spices, slice it thin, eat it as a snack. The eyes are also taken out, boiled, and considered good for eyesight. The legs are severed at the knee joint. From the leg bones we make broth, Chukchi explains. We extract the marrow, eat it raw or fried. Very nutritious. We remove the hooves. From them we make glue by boiling them for a long time. The antlers are sawed off at the base. The antlers of a young male are still soft, not fully ossified. From them we make tools, knife handles, harpoon tips, scrapers for working hides. When they harden completely after a month of drying, they will be as strong as wood. The bones are cleaned of meat and set aside separately. From the large bones we will make sewing needles, awls for piercing leather, parts for bows and arrows. From the vertebrae, toys for children, animal figurines. From the ribs, runners for small sleds. The sinews, long white fibers along the back and legs, are extracted with the greatest care. This is the most valuable part after the meat, says Ivik. From sinew, we make thread for sewing clothing, bowstrings, bindings for tools. A single caribou sinew can hold 50 kilograms of breaking force, stronger than any synthetic thread. After 2 hours, the butchering is finished. Before us lie neatly arranged parts, 70 kilograms of meat in bags, the hide rolled fur side in, the bones tied in a bundle, the organs in a separate bag, the antlers lashed to a backpack. The total weight is about 100 kilograms. The bones and innards we do not take remain on the spot for nature, says Ivik. Wolves, Arctic foxes, ravens, bears will eat them. Nothing is wasted. Everything returns to the circle of life. The load is divided among 4. I carry 20 kilograms of meat, Anuk 25, Chukchi 35, Ivik 20, including the hide, antlers, and tools. We begin the return journey, slowly, with stops every 500 meters. 5 kilometers under load across uneven tundra takes 3 hours. The sun rises above the horizon, illuminating the endless tundra plain already dusted with the first snow. The cold intensifies, the wind strengthens, but we walk, step by step, laden with the meat of our quarry. We return to the settlement by noon. Ivik's wife Nina waits by the house, sees us from afar, smiles. "A good hunt," she says in Inuktitut, helping to unload the bags. "A young caribou, the meat will be tender." The load is carried into the cold room of the house, where the temperature is -15, a natural freezer. The meat is laid out on wooden shelves, the hide is stretched on a frame for drying, the bones are placed in a crate. The organs go to the kitchen. They will be cooked today while still fresh. While the women begin preparing lunch, Ivik invites me into his workshop, a small addition to the house where he makes bows, arrows, and other traditional tools. "I want to show you how a real Inuit bow is made," he says. "This knowledge is dying. Few remember it now." The workshop is filled with materials and half-finished items. Caribou and muskox horns of various sizes, pieces of walrus bone, bundles of dried sinew, bird feathers, willow rods, tools for carving and sanding. A bow begins with choosing the right horns, Ivik explains, picking up 2 muskox horns. You need horns of a certain curve, a certain thickness, without cracks or damage. Such horns are rare. A good horn can take years to find. The horns are joined at the center with a special walrus bone overlay. The overlay is carved to fit the exact shape of the horn ends, glued with adhesive boiled from caribou hooves. Then the joint is wrapped with thin strips of rawhide, which shrink as they dry, creating additional strength. The most important part is the sinew on the back of the bow, he continues, showing a bundle of dried sinew. The sinew is glued onto the back of the bow in several layers, adding extra spring and power. Without sinew, a bow made of horn would be brittle and would break under tension. The process of making a single bow takes 3 to 4 months, he explains. A month to prepare the materials, find the horns, work them, dry them. A month for joining and shaping. A month for gluing the sinew layer by layer. Each layer must dry for a week. A month for sanding, fitting, testing. A good bow lasts a lifetime if cared for properly, he continues. My bow is 40 years old. My father's bow, 65 years old, still works. I keep it as a relic. My grandfather's bow is 90 years old. I no longer shoot it for fear of breaking it, but it is still springy, alive. Arrows are simpler to make, but they too require skill, he says, moving to a table with arrows at various stages of production. The shaft is from a straight willow branch, cut in summer, dried all winter. Willow in the Arctic grows low, as a shrub. But the branches are straight, flexible, ideal for arrows. The shaft is worked. The bark is stripped, the surface sanded smooth, the ends trimmed at an angle. At the rear end, a nock is cut for the bowstring, 1 centimeter deep, 3 millimeters wide. At the front end, the tip is attached. Tips are carved from different materials depending on their purpose. He shows several types. A bone tip of walrus or caribou bone. Light, sharp, for long shots at unprotected targets. A stone tip of flint or obsidian. Heavy, very sharp, pierces thick hide for large game at close range. A metal tip from an old file or saw. The sharpest and most durable, but dulls quickly from striking bones. A blunt wooden tip for hunting birds, stuns without piercing, causing less damage to meat and feathers. The tip is fastened to the shaft with sinew, wrapped tightly, coated with glue. The joint must be strong so the tip does not come off on impact, yet removable so a broken tip can be replaced. The fletching is made from feathers of large birds, geese, ducks, owls, ravens. 3 feathers per arrow, set at 120-degree intervals. The feathers must be of identical size, symmetrical. Otherwise, the arrow will fly crooked. 1 good arrow takes 3 to 4 days to make, says Ivik. Finding a suitable willow branch, drying it, working it, making the tip, attaching the fletching, balancing it. 20 arrows in a quiver represent 2 to 3 months of work. But these arrows last for years, he continues. I have been using some arrows for 10 years already, only changing the tips when they dull or break. The willow shaft does not break. It bends and returns to shape. I replace the fletching once a year when the feathers wear out. We are called to lunch. Nina has prepared a feast from the fresh quarry. Fried caribou heart, thinly sliced with a crispy crust on the outside and pink within. Boiled kidneys in broth with spices. Liver, pan-fried with onion. Tongue, boiled and sliced into rounds. Raw meat, fresh, shaved thin, melting in the mouth. Alongside the meat is traditional bannock, flatbread fried in fat. Cloudberries, gathered in summer and frozen. Tea, strong, sweet, by the leader. Around the table sits the whole family. Ivik, Nina, Chukchi with his wife and 2 children, Anouk, 2 more daughters with their husbands. 12 people in all in a small house. They eat in silence, with focus, with pleasure. This is not merely food. It is the result of a successful hunt, a life taken with respect and gratitude. After lunch, the village elder, Nina's grandfather Simon, comes to visit. He heard they got a caribou with a bow, he tells Ivik. Well done. You are preserving the tradition. Few people remember how to shoot a bow now. Everyone has switched to rifles. They sit down, drink tea, talk about the old times. Simon tells how in his youth, 70 years ago, everyone in the village hunted only with bows. Rifles were a rarity. Cartridges were expensive. Not everyone could afford them. They made bows themselves, made arrows themselves, lived on what they hunted. Back then, hunting was fair, he says. Hunter against animal, skill against instinct. You had to sneak up very close, shoot precisely. If you missed, the animal ran away, and you went hungry. It taught respect, patience, mastery. Now the young people shoot rifles from 300 meters, he continues with sadness. No need to sneak up. No need to know the animal's habits. Just see it, shoot it, kill it. No art, no connection with the animal, no respect, just killing for meat. But Ivik preserves the old way, he says with approval. He teaches his son, teaches his grandson. As long as there is even one person shooting a bow, the tradition is alive. The knowledge is not lost. The next day, Ivik offers to let me try shooting the bow myself. We go out onto the tundra, set up a target. A large piece of cardboard with a drawn caribou silhouette, at a distance of 50 meters. Ivik gives me his bow, shows me the proper stance. Feet shoulder-width apart, left foot forward, body sideways to the target. Bow in the left hand, arrow on the string. Right hand pulls the string to the corner of the mouth, elbow high. I try to draw the string, but it is incredibly difficult. The draw weight is 30 kilograms. My arms and back are not accustomed to such a load. I pull with all my strength, The string reaches only the middle of my chest, not my mouth. My muscles tremble from the strain. "Do not rush," Ivik says calmly. "Pull smoothly. Use your back, not just your arms. Inhale. Hold your breath. Pull on the exhale." I try again, slower, engaging my back muscles. The string reaches almost to my mouth. A little more effort, it touches my lips. Aim above the target. At 50 meters, the arrow drops about 1.5 meters, he instructs. Release smoothly, do not jerk. I aim 1 meter above the silhouette, release my fingers. The string snaps forward, strikes my wrist, the arrow flies ahead. The flight is crooked. The arrow veers left and down, sticks into the ground 10 meters from the target. A miss by 40 meters. Ivik smiles. "The first time is always like that," he says. "It takes years of training to shoot accurately. I have been training for 50 years, at least a few arrows every day, and I still miss sometimes." He takes the bow, demonstrates proper technique. He draws easily, smoothly, without visible effort. Aims for a second, releases. The arrow flies in a beautiful arc, sticks into the center of the drawn silhouette, right in the heart area. A perfect hit. He shoots 19 more times, emptying the quiver. 17 arrows in the target, all in the area of vital organs. 2 arrows miss, but close, within 1 meter of the target. 85% accuracy at 50 meters. "This is the result of a life devoted to the bow," he says, collecting the arrows. "I have been shooting every day since I was 8. That is 54 years of practice. The body remembers every movement. The hands know the draw. The eyes know the trajectory. It has become part of me, like breathing." But even with such mastery, hunting caribou with a bow is very difficult, he continues. Out of 10 stalking attempts, 3 or 4 are successful. The animals notice and flee. Out of 10 shots, 7 or 8 hit. Out of 10 hits, 5 or 6 are lethal. The rest are wounds, and the animal escapes. So out of 100 hunting attempts, 10 to 15 are successful, he calculates. With a rifle, 50 to 60 out of 100 are successful. That is why most hunters chose rifles. It is more practical, more efficient. "But I chose the bow, despite the difficulty," he says quietly. "Because it is not just hunting, it is a connection with the past. It is the preservation of knowledge spanning millennia. When I shoot a bow, I am not alone. With me are my father, grandfather, great-grandfather, all the hunters of my line over 4,000 years. In the following days, Ivik shows me other aspects of traditional bow hunting. He teaches me to build blinds from stones, behind which one can wait for caribou for hours. He shows how to read tracks, freshness, direction of movement, herd size, speed. He teaches me to understand caribou behavior, when they are alert, when they are relaxed, when they are about to flee. One of the most important techniques is hunting at river crossings, he explains. In autumn, caribou cross rivers, migrating south. A crossing is a narrow place where the herd bunches up, moves slowly. The hunter hides on the bank, waits, shoots when the animals are in the water. They cannot escape quickly. He shows me a traditional blind on the bank of a small river, a semicircular wall of stones chest high with an opening for shooting. The stones are covered with lichen, old. This blind was built decades, perhaps hundreds of years ago, used by generations of hunters. My grandfather hunted here. I hunted here. My grandson will hunt here, Ivik says, touching the stones. This is a place of knowledge, a place of power. Every stone remembers arrows, remembers the catch, remembers the gratitude to the spirits. Another technique is hunting at salt licks, places where caribou come to lick salt from the ground. Salt licks are rare in the Arctic, so caribou come to them regularly, predictably. The hunter hides downwind, waits, sometimes for several days, until caribou come. A third technique is drive hunting. Several hunters surround a herd. Slowly tighten the circle. Direct the animals toward a narrow place where the best archer is hidden. It requires coordination, knowledge of the terrain, but is very effective. All these techniques were developed through millennia of experience, Ivik says. Our ancestors had no rifles, snowmobiles, binoculars, only bows, only knowledge of animals, only patience. And they survived, fed their families, created a culture that lasted 4,000 years in the harshest place on earth. But this knowledge is dying, he continues with sadness. The young people are not interested. They consider it old-fashioned. It is easier to buy a rifle, shoot from 300 meters, take the meat. Why spend months making a bow, years learning to shoot, hours stalking? I am trying to pass it on to my grandson, he says, looking at a Nook, who is practicing shooting nearby. I teach him to make a bow, teach him to shoot, teach him to stalk. He listens. He tries. But I see doubt in his eyes. His friends hunt with their fathers on snowmobiles with rifles. They get more easily. Why would he choose the difficult path of the bow? But I hope, he continues, I hope that when he grows up, he will understand the value of tradition, the value of connection with ancestors. Maybe he will not hunt only with a bow like me, but at least he will know how. At least he will preserve the knowledge and pass it on to his children. That way the tradition will survive one more generation. On the last evening, Ivik tells a story that explains his devotion to the bow better than any arguments. 20 years ago, he says, I hunted caribou with a rifle, like everyone. It was easy, efficient. I got plenty of meat. But I felt that something was wrong, that I had lost something. One night I dreamed of my grandfather, who had died when I was 10. He came in the dream, showed me his bow, and said, You have forgotten the way of the ancestors, forgotten the art I taught you. Return to the bow, or you will lose the soul of a hunter. I woke up, remembered how my grandfather taught me to shoot, how we made my first bow together, how we went on the first hunt. I remembered the joy of the first accurate shot, the pride in his eyes. I understood that the rifle was not my path. It was the easy path, but not the right one for me. I took my grandfather's old bow out of the shed, where it had been gathering dust for 20 years. I strung it. The string did not break, still resilient. I went to practice, every day, for weeks. My arms ached, my back was sore, but I kept going. The first hunt with a bow after a 20-year break was a disaster, he smiles. I missed, scared the caribou, came back empty-handed. My wife scolded me, told me to take the rifle, not to starve the family. But I stubbornly continued. After 3 months, I got my first caribou with a bow. The feeling was incredible, he says, and his voice becomes quiet. Not joy from the meat, but joy from the mastery, from the connection with the animal, from the sense that I had done it right, the way the ancestors did. I understood that I had come home, to my roots. Since then, for 20 years I have hunted only with a bow, he concludes. I get less than with a rifle, but each catch means more. Every arrow is a prayer, every hit is gratitude, every animal is a gift that I cherish. This is not just hunting, he says, looking at me seriously. It is a philosophy. It is a way of life. It is a connection with the land and animals on a deep level. The modern world has lost this connection, lost respect for nature, for food, for the life we take. Perhaps in a generation or two, no one will hunt with a bow, he continues. Perhaps this knowledge will die, but as long as I am alive, as long as I can draw the string, I will preserve the tradition and teach everyone who wants to learn. Because this is our heritage. This is what makes us Inuit, what connects us to 4,000 years of history. The next morning, I fly out of Baker Lake. Below, the tundra drifts past, endless, harsh, beautiful. Somewhere out there, Ivik stands with his bow, aims at a caribou, releases the string, continues the tradition. The last master of a dying art, the keeper of ancient knowledge. And I understand that I witnessed not just a hunt, I witnessed resistance to oblivion, a struggle to preserve identity, a love for culture stronger than the desire for ease and efficiency. I saw a man who chose the difficult path not because there was no choice, but because it was the right path for him. Ivik's bow will shoot as long as his hands live. Then it will pass to Chukchi, then to Inuit, if he chooses this path. Or it will hang on a wall as a relic, a memory of a time when the Inuit hunted with bows, when mastery was valued above efficiency, when the connection with ancestors was more important than modern comfort. But as long as the bow shoots, as long as arrows fly, as long as Ivik